Hi, welcome back to the Shamrock Quilt Studio. I'm going to take you along as I cut the fabric for our strips on our borders for our double wedding ring quilt. This is the pink fabric that is used in the diamonds on the quilt, and we're going to be cutting 5 4-inch strips length of fabric. I have almost 2 yards of fabric, and I've calculated that I'm going to put a 3-inch border in this fabric all around the quilt. So I'm going to cut it 4 inches. Now usually on quilting we use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but for these I'm going to use a 1/2 inch because that border is going to be the part that gets tugged on, and there's not going to be a fabric behind it like there is in the majority of this quilt top. On the majority of this quilt top, the pattern is laid on top of that solid piece of background. Underneath this, you're not going to have anything. So we're going to use a little larger seam allowance, something more akin to when you're sewing garments and household sewing. So we're going to be cutting a 4-inch strip. So that's going to be 3 inches with a 1/2 inch on each side for a seam allowance. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this fabric and cut off the selvage edge. We don't want to use that in our sewing because that does not give at all. It is a very solid, consistent size. So we want to eliminate that so all the fabric we're using is consistent and will give and stretch as the rest of it does. So I've lined up the folded edge. I folded it with selvages together here. It's folded on this side, and it's unevenly cut on this end. So I've lined up the perpendicular measurement on the quilt, on the ruler here, against this fold, and I've put it just beyond where the selvage is. And you can see that selvage because the fabric is very tightly woven there on the edge of the fabric. And these two selvage edges are lined up together. So we've got it lined up on our fold here on that line, and we've got it across. This is not on the selvage, this is not on the selvage. So we're ready to go. Okay, I always like to pull that away. Oops, a little cantankerous there. And then we're going to slide this down about halfway, not all the way. And we're going to line up this far so that the line is the same as we cut. And then we're going to stretch it out. So we're just continuing that line. If you bring it all the way to the end where you started cutting before, you've lost the perpendicularity of this cut that you made. By overlapping it, you know it's right here, so it's going to be right here. And just double check it, because you can't put it back once you've cut it. You only have to learn that lesson one time. And now we're not quite to the end, so we're going to do the same thing. It's all lined up here. And these rulers can slip when you're cutting, so just take your time. And the rotary blades are very sharp. So 4 inches is what we're cutting. So now I'm going to line that up again on 4 inches. 4 inches down this way. I've also double checked to see that on this side we're still perpendicular. And then I'm going to use my elbow to help me hold this in place, because at this point we're cutting our borders. They also have handles that you could use that give you a little more balance in being able to press it down firmly across the whole thing. And the longer ruler you use, that does become more important. Okay, so it's lined up now. Make sure your clothes aren't where you're cutting. Make sure your skin is not where you're cutting. And we're going to cut. We're a little close to the machine there. You don't have to cut really hard, but you do want to be firm. There we go. And we're off to a good start. Again, we're going to line that up where we cut. We're going to line it up on 4 inches. Same thing. You want to make sure that you keep your rotary cutter pushed against the edge of your ruler as well, because it can get to where it's doing some creative stuff on you. And then the very last portion. Having a longer ruler would also be helpful, but the longer ruler you have, the more difficult it is to deal with. You'd be dealing with something this long and it's a little hard to get around everything you have. So we've got 1 strip. I think this is going to take 5, and I think we're going to just start by making, I might need to check my math, but we're going to cut 5 for now. If I check it and it's going to take a portion larger than 5, we may go ahead and cut 6. Don't forget we're overlapping here, just to make sure we're getting that consistently straight line. There we go, that's 2. And the other thing I will tell you is, because I'm cutting 2 pieces of fabric at one time, I have taken the time to smooth it out as much as I can. And I'm using some pins to pin it together so that one piece doesn't go astray and get out of alignment with the piece. And usually that's that one on the bottom that will not pull evenly. So this way we're all in sync. So just double check that edge and we're good to go. We're going to cut another 4-inch strip. That's 3. That's 4. Now here, my fabric started moving off the cutting board, so I don't cut my tabletop. Just going to cut the end of it with the scissors. And that's 5. So we've got 5 strips cut. I'm going to do the same thing with the purple, and I'm going to cut 2.5 inch strips so that our finished product is going to be 1.5 inches. And let me just double check that. Yep, 1.5 inches. And then we'll sew those we'll sew the pieces together so we've got a continuous strip. And then from there we're going to sew the purple onto the pink. And then we will make some strips out of our white fabric and sew those on as well. So we'll have a purple, a pink, a 1.5 inch purple, a 3 inch pink, and I'm not quite sure where we're going to go with that white strip. I don't think it's going to be any larger than 5 inches, but I need to see how much fabric I have because I am working with something that I can't get more of. So thank you for joining me today. This is not the most interesting topic, but we did share a few pointers about how to keep your fabric together, how to use this ruler without it going askew on you and ending up with a strip that's really skinny on one side and really skinny on the other side. If you keep it even and then you sew careful, consistent seams, your borders will come out looking very nice and you have less opportunity for it to become wavy on you. So thank you. We'll join you next time when we make a little more progress on this double wedding ring quilt. Be sure to like us and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and visit us on Facebook. Thank you. See you next time.